So, what inspired you to start doing what you do?
So I've always been, like, I was one of those children who read early. And so because of that, I think I was writing early, and I've always kept a journal. And always, like, wrote stories about my feelings, and I'm talking from, like, 5 and 6 years old. And I didn't really start writing formally, really, though, until high school. My very last year of high school, I took a creative writing class just to sort of, like, fill a gap. And I really loved poetry. I loved what our teacher gave us to read. I loved writing it, and kept that going when I went to college. And so what really inspired me to do, I think, what I do now is in college I just saw spoken word in New York in the 90s. It was just this very powerful spoken word poet I would never forget. Her name, Mariposa. I will never forget the poem she was doing, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to be that powerful on stage, telling my truth and connecting with people. She was so fearless and so honest. I never heard her sing anything like it. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could, like, tell your story that way. Maybe I was 18 or 19. And I, like, then started writing and started looking for opportunities to read my stuff.
Was it right away you jumped into performing?
It was pretty soon, because it all really happened in college. But I think it was sort of easy for me to do it around my friends in college, and that, like, small, in NYU's not a small school, but, like, for me, that was like my little circle. It was sort of easy to do that, but then, like, branching out into the community, into, like, the actual poetry all the time was harder and more intimidating, and, like, something I, like, would put my toe in, and then, like, for years and years and years.
What was it so hard?
I mean, so when was this? I guess between 96 and 2000, and it was like when spoken word poetry sort of had this comeback, right? And so, you had those poetry slams became a thing. And, a lot of great poets who, like, went on to do amazing things and have amazing careers came out of that moment. Like when you had Def Poetry Jam on HBO, all of those poets really were, like, doing the New York and in that round of stuff at that time. And so I think it was intimidating because there was a lot of attention on it, and it felt like a competition time, sort of. And quite honestly, it wasn't easy being a gay black person doing poetry at that time. You had it was not easy. It was not an easy time. Communities have grown, poets have grown, a lot of people have grown since then. And I don't think you would imagine it being in New York City in a poetry scene that you deal with, like, misogyny, homophobia. It was surprising to me, even at that time. So it wasn't easy. So all of that, I think, encouraged me to, like, be sort of like a reluctant poet, which is the title of my first book, because I would, like, do that for a bit and then, like, step out of it.
Where's the biggest shift that since then to right now?
In terms of, like, spoken word,
the spoken word community, yeah.
There's been so many shifts. And I'm not saying this is, like, in a good or bad way, but I think, I've not encountered a poet since then who has not gone into a sort of spoken word arena not knowing the possibilities for, like, the reach of their poetry, right? Like, in 96, 97, 98, who knew what you could do from that stage? Like, there was what ended up happening was not foreseen, and I don't think people necessarily got into it for that reason. Now, I think people know that's quite possible. I mean, I think also social media has, like, made it way easier to reach audiences than you could in the late 90s.
Right. And what do you think is that specifically about spoken word? And now you have the spoken word and the music like put together. And I think that is such a powerful thing. And I love listening to it because it's so good.
Thank you.
And what do you think is so specific about spoken word scene that can make an impact in like different way than any other art form?
I think there's a way in which, if I'm comparing it to sort of like music or other art forms, I think there's a way in which poetry is allowed to be way more specific to a person's experience. And that allows for a level of vulnerability and immediacy that you don't necessarily see, even in great songs, right? I think there's a way in which a poet can like really hone in on what they're feeling, stripped down. Like it's just, you know, without, because it works without the words. I mean, it works without the music, or with the music that just adds another dimension to it. But I feel like for me, poetry is about finding yourself in the experience of another human being in a way that I don't connect with music, or, you know, particularly pop music. I think can be very general in a way that like poetry isn't. You're not gonna have pop poetry, like that's such an immediate time.
And I think poetry also have a like freedom and interpretation in regards to experiencing your poem. Like has inspiration shifted? Like if you come from the visual or you come from the more audio inspiration?
That's a good question. I think for most of my writing, I consider myself actually very literary. Like for me, the writing was first, and then readings and performances came as like a secondary thought. And I don't really consider myself a performer. Like I'm a writer who happens to like enjoy and can like read my poems well. So for me, first is how it looks and feels on the page. In certain projects, when I thought about doing the album, I think that was really for me the first time that I wrote with the idea of how it sounded, which is a challenge, but also a way to grow as an artist in terms of how I express myself. And so to connect with my art differently was really fun.
Did you discover something?
I discovered a lot of things. But I think,
Tell me.
For me, the reason why I chose the poems that made up the album for Volume 2 was because it was me writing from a different space. Normally when I write, it's about something that by the time it makes it to the page and like it's out in the world, it's something that I've processed and it's like in the past. This was like very current stuff that I'm like still grappling with. It was like this immediate things that are going on now. I'm not sure how I feel about them. I'm not sure if I'm like experiencing it. You know, it's all about relationships, right? And so it's like it's the other person in this relationship experiencing this. I have no idea. So it was less sure than like the stuff that I would normally write. And I think that comes through. So it was really fun to write from a different space, different perspective about a different topic, very intimately, and in a way that I normally didn't. I think it helped me jump into the vulnerability a little bit more.
I love that.
Because I didn't have the wall of it just being on the page. Like people were going to hear it in a very different way.
I love that you spoke about like the part one being a little bit more based on the past, and this one based more on the current situation. So in regards to expressing where you are right now, did you find yourself experiencing the healing process in that as well? Healing was really the theme of Volume 1. Objects in this Review Volume 1 was really about looking at the things I had been through, the traumas from my life that impacted me, looking at those things with the intention of healing from them, or seeing where I was in my healing with them, so that I can, and taking responsibility for the way that those things impacted now and how I treat people, and you know where I allow intimacy and where I didn't, the limits I placed on intimacy and love and all of that. I think Volume 1 was really me working through all of those questions. So that for me, that was where most of the healing that I was aware of took place, was in the journey through those pieces. And then Volume 2, I think, is me trying to, from this new space, be in the moment of where I am right now. Now that I like am aware and I've healed some things, and I'm willing to be present in a way that I haven't been before. What's happening? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? What am I sure of? What am I not sure of? What am I confident about? What am I really insecure about still? What am I thankful for right now? Is how Volume 2 shaped up. I love that. Oh. And like you're already putting in a place of what am I thankful for? That's a great thing. When you're processing and in the process of healing, it's not always that you get to be in the place of what I'm thankful for. What can I celebrate?
I think for me, the most important part, and the only useful part really about dealing with the past, is like looking at it honestly and fairly, or like whatever, accurately, whatever that means to you.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just talking about my childhood, a lot of bad things happened. A lot of things happened to me and my sister. You know, lots of people in my family that should not happen to people. A lot of violence, a lot of abuse, a lot of those things that absolutely impacted me. But the truth is, a lot of amazing things happen. A lot of love, a lot of forgiveness, a lot of miracles happen in my childhood as well. And so I don't want to give up any of that. All of that went into making me who I am, and I sort of get to decide what my story is in some of that, what my responsibility is in some of that. And yeah, I don't think there's a point of delving to the past if it's not to find a way to move forward, however that looks.
I love it. Yeah, it helps us form into who we are right now, and finding the appreciation and gratitude towards it. That is so cool. So, how do you celebrate yourself now?
That is a wonderful question. I think I'm learning to celebrate myself by taking care of myself, unapologetically developing my passions. That's sort of like where I am now, right? And so, and for the sole purpose of enjoying things. I used to not try things unless there was a use for trying them, or if I was pretty sure I was good at it. You know what I mean? And so now I'm learning the joy of simply taking up things because you enjoy doing it, even if you're like really bad at it, like sketching and painting or like whatever. Those things are just relaxing to me. They're not like, it's not my job. It's not poetry, which I have this career for, but like it's just stuff that I like doing, and like take the pressure off. Like this has to be good. This has to be. I have to. It's just a fun, and I'm passionate about it. It's just a fun thing to do, and I feel like so that's a celebration to me because it lets me connect to myself in a way that like I need to, because I can take myself very seriously. When you're a lawyer, professor, and poet, those are like those can be like serious things, and so like it's fun to like basically just color, right? Like that's just fun. So other hobbies like that to just do, to like just not take myself seriously and get out of my head. With no other point. Just to enjoy. Right. Yeah. So if this painting sucks, it can just suck. So what? I had fun doing it. Amazing. And a lot of them suck. Yeah. A lot of them suck.
In your opinion, for other people's point of view, it's just a magical thing.
Some of them objectively suck.
Oh, well, we need to do the painting together one of these days. Alright, so just for the heck of it. So you do everything. You teach, you're the lawyer, and you share your art, and like not only in New York, but internationally. Like, how has that been for you? And it's a broad question.
Right.
Because you have such a specific message and specific mission.
I think I'm still in it. Too in it to really like know what that even means. Like in terms of my practical day-to-day life, there's not a change, right? Like I'm doing this new project, and it's out there, but I'm still, for me, because it's a trilogy and the third part isn't out yet, I'm still like in the production phase, and so my head's not up to really have a perspective on what it means. But I have a sense that like it's out there, people are reading it, people are responding, I'm getting letters about it. When I get information about where people are listening to it, it's like all over. Some of the emails and texts we get are from all over the world, like Europe, Australia, the Caribbean. It's really great. I mean, it feels awesome to like have this thing that I worked really hard on, that I pushed myself on, find its way in the world and touch people, and to touch people in such a way that they feel generous enough to like reach out to me really kindly to let me know what resonates with them. And everything in this project is about healing, about breaking from your past in a way to have what you want right now. And isn't that like, that's, who can't relate to that? Who can't find themselves in that? Everyone, I think. But for me to be able to share it in a way to achieve that has been really great. It's been inspiring in a way that no other project has been, to like really keep going and keep moving in this direction. I think there's something about men dealing with their emotions and their traumas for the purpose of healing and being available for love and sharing love that really is resonating with people.
I truly believe that art can reach places that nothing else can.
Yeah.
And also, the interpretation is all up to them. Like, we pour our heart out, we pour our message out, and yet what they get or what they experience can be completely not what we anticipated to
Right.
be.
Well, right. And it shouldn't be, right? Like, once you share it, it's not yours anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's art. What people are looking for in art, yes, an escape, but the escape is being able to see themselves in what you do. Either this part of them, what they want to be, or exactly what happens. People are finding themselves in your art. They're not really. I feel like whenever people talk to me about my poetry, one of the things that they always say is like, "How do you know what I'm going through?" I don't really, because some people I didn't know you existed before right now. But I know what I'm going through, and I know if I strip that down to its core, it's going to resonate with other people because we are all humans going through these things. So when people reach out to me, they're not really talking about my experience. They're talking about how I've expressed my experience has given them access to their experience. Right, like they feel seen. They feel that their experience is seen because they've seen it on the paper. It's not about me anymore. And that's what art should do. That's what it really is about. And so it's great to have a project that it feels like is doing that beyond what I was hoping for.
So, is there anything that you're hoping in process of creating art, or what does creating art mean to you?
Mm-hmm. When I'm writing poetry, I think I sort of go, particularly on a project, I sort of go into it knowing the story that I want to tell. And so for me, that process is all about getting that as honest as possible. And I can't allow myself to worry about people's reactions in that phase. Like I can't, because I couldn't create that way. And so I think creatively I sort of have like a small audience of people in my head, like 5 people that I'm writing to, that I'm talking to, like that imaginary audience. But I don't think about or hope for anything other than getting that story honest in that moment. And then when I decide to release it out into the world, then I sort of have to get clear on my intention and what I'm trying to create in the world. And that's really, for this, that's just been healing and vulnerability. Like that's really it. But that came after the writing got done.
I really love that because it really feels like you mentioned like it's not about me. It's like once it's out there, it's for other people and it's to share. And it really does feel like you are using this art form as a vehicle. And for some people, it is how you heal yourself and the healing process, and you are in the next step. Like, this is my gift to you. I'm really using that as a vessel so that you can experience your experience and see what's behind her, whatever that is, through this art. So, like, it really sounds like you're gifting this to the audience.
I think I really just sort of think of it as not necessarily my gift, but as much as like I know how hard it was for me to have some of the conversations I had to make the book. For me, when I came across art that resonated with me, that made it easier. And so I just sort of like want to keep that going, right? Like I know for me, reading The Bluest Eye or Color Purple or James Baldwin, like reading those books made me feel seen, and so many other art like made me feel seen during difficult times, right? And gave me a language to understand what I was experiencing when I was struggling with it. And for me, that resonated in such a deep way that it makes me want to do it and connect with other people in that way. To like help people feel seen, help people know that healing from very devastating things is possible, and even really necessary to have the kind of life that you really, really want. It's just sort of like keeping that going.
I love that, helping people feel seen. That's such a powerful thing. A lot of people don't feel seen, don't feel heard, don't feel being supported.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that that's your intention.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your vision that you want to create by doing your art?
I think I have many, but I think for this book in particular, what I'm enjoying, what is happening, is like having men in particular have conversations around their trauma, their mental health, their intimacy. That was one of the visions I had creating this. And so to see that happening, I think has been the world to me. And I want to keep that going as we continue with the project into volume 3.
Mm-hmm. And if you have one call to action that you could ask for the world or the audience that you're sharing your art with, what would that be?
Wow. I think it really is I think it's 2 parts. I think it's to know that healing is possible and to get the support you need to heal.